I think Vaush is okay with misinformation as propaganda as long as it makes the viewer reach his position. Yeah, but that's harmful, I think. I don't think that's good. Let's say that there is one person in a hospital and they have a cold, and there are 2 people in the hospital that are dying and need kidneys or else they'll die. Should we kill the one person to save the 2? Well, if we're a consequentialist, yes, because the ends justify the means. Easy. Boom. Like, kill one person, save 2 people. It's literally grade school math, okay? Consequentialism solved, right? The problem is that when we say the ends justify the means, right? There's another end there. The end there isn't saving 2 people. That's not the only end. There's another end that we've carried over there. And another one of those ends is we have made a society where it's okay to kill one person to save 2 people. That society would collapse. Nobody would go to hospitals anymore ever. People wouldn't sleep next to other people because they'd be worried about being killed to give organs to people. There would probably be entire organizations dedicated to hunting down people for body parts and shit. If we made this ethical, right, if this is ethically permissible, and it would all be legal too, right? This is the problem with when some people will go like this very weird consequentialist route where you're like, oh, the ends justify the means. What was your impression of last night's debate with Vaush? It feels like, oh, fuck. I'm trying to be very nice here, okay? It feels like Vaush has heard me talk about how important it is to kind of be a little bit grounded in terms of like your moral philosophy, I guess, when having discussions on things, or not necessarily for having discussions, but for like having positions on things. So it feels like he tries to rope in a lot of like philosophy and shit. Sometimes it feels a little inappropriate, and then sometimes it feels like we haven't thought out those things as much. One thing that I feel happens, and this is to no fault of, hold on, I have to mute all these 1 second. Wait, what was I just talking about? Oh, I feel like I feel like Vaush probably doesn't spend a lot of time exploring like fundamental positions and arguments with people, which is normal. I hardly spend any time. The only time I really got into that, funny enough, was when I argued with Rem or JF actually, is when I started to kind of take philosophy a little bit more seriously. And yeah, so I guess it feels a little frustrating if somebody wants to take the time to explore those positions in a conversation with me. That's fine. I don't care. That's totally okay. But it's a little bit frustrating when the other person is constantly accusing you of being bad faith and attacking you the whole time. Even after all the talking we did, I'm still not 100%. I'm still not 100% sure what Vaush's positions are related to anything we talked about. I still don't know. I just don't know. Do you think you could have done anything better in last night's debate? I don't know. I guess never use a rape analogy. I felt like I was being very patient and I was trying really hard. Dude, I kept going back to return to try to like write down Vaush's statements over and over and over again. I tried very, very, very hard to understand him. But the problem that was happening, what I think, maybe this is just me being biased, but I think the problem was happening is that he was trying to discover his like inner ethical positions in real time. And when you're doing that, it's very hard because if I'm listening, I'm probably going to catch you like, well, hold on, you said this, but you also said this thing. Like, you said this. So like, for instance, you said it would be good if somebody, he kept trying to weasel around the like, well, I think it would be good if somebody does that, but if they don't, it's morally neutral or something. But then I tried to have a conversation on like, do you have an obligation, do you think, to do good to society? And we kind of started to get down that road, but for some reason we didn't finish that because I tried to do that with the swimmer example, right? Well, let's say somebody's capable of saving somebody. Do you think they have an obligation to? And it seemed like he agreed that the answer was yes there. But I don't know how we didn't get a chance to route that. I don't know. It was just really hard to figure out like, what do you actually think? I don't know what you actually think about this thing. Like, holy Christ, it's so hard. Like, I don't know what your position is. And I was legitimately trying. Yeah, I don't know. I was trying really, really, really hard to figure out, like, what the fuck do you actually think? Do people have an obligation? You've gotten mad at the supererogatory thing in the past, if I recall. Supererogatory, supererogative is a name for it. It's something where it's like, I don't even know. Nobody ever talks about this. Supererogative is the idea where it's like it would be good to do something, but you're not compelled to do it, I guess. Supererogatory. From a purely consequentialist perspective, could something actually be morally neutral? Wouldn't things just more or less be more or less mad? I mean, some things can be neutral, sure. Like, whether or not you decide to watch like Attack on Titan or Hunter x Hunter, like your decision there. Like I don't think all choices are necessarily like morally righteous or immoral choices, right? The supererogatory argument he was making, I didn't feel like you addressed that part of his argument. Well, I was trying to, but I couldn't do it. I tried really, really, really hard. Like, I feel like Destiny, no system is perfect though, right? All of them have contradictions, as in there's no system that accurately describes reality. They're all too rigid. The goal is to create a system without contradictions. When contradictions exist, we seek to resolve those contradictions. You don't accept systems with contradictions. You reject them and you try to solve for them, right? This is the whole point of like scientific theories do this, right? When you stumble into a contradiction, like, oh wait, this isn't explanatory over this. Well, then people seek to like, okay, well fuck, we gotta figure, obviously this isn't right. We don't have an accurate description of reality. We need to resolve this, right? So after watching your debate with V, you were truly falling short of understanding him? I don't think so. Like, I have every incentive to be friends with and to be charitable with Vaush. He's a big streamer. He's one of the few left-leaning people that still kind of sort of likes me. He represents a decent career opportunity for me. We could like collaborate on content. Like I have every reason to be, from a personal level, from a career level, to try to be friendly towards Vaush. And I would say yesterday that I made a very, very, very big effort to really try to understand his positions. Like, I'm not like, I don't think I was out to get him, which he felt like a lot. He kept saying like, oh, you're trying to go for gotchas. It's like, not trying to go for gotchas. I legitimately just want to know what the fuck you actually think. He was very clear. 30 minutes in, I knew his stance, and I feel like there was no reason you couldn't know. Oh, okay. So VRGG. Okay, do you want to come on and try to explain it then? If you think you know it, and I can try to ask you the questions it seemed like he wasn't capable of answering. After watching that debate and some of his other debates, I think he's actually really bad. Do you think he's actually bad faith? I don't know if he's bad faith. I think he was just frustrated because he was trying to figure out something in real time, and it was hard to do that. Might be biased, but you calling him out on the inflammatory language when he was repeating your arguments looked really good, Destiny. Yeah, this is something I'm trying to do more because I let it slide in the past. Because I personally, I don't give a fuck how inflammatory somebody's position is. If they want to go fucking balls to the wall, as long as I can parse the logic, I'm like, yeah, okay, I agree with this. It's pretty hyperbolic, but yeah, I agree, or no, I don't agree. I'm trying to fight back against that every time I hear people do it to me now. Because I understand that rhetorically, it's like a very effective thing that people do to shut my arguments down. Like, okay, Destiny, so what you're saying is you think that corpses have no more weight. So what you're saying, Destiny, is that if nobody owns a corpse and nobody cares about it, it would be okay for 100 people to run a gang rape train, even if it was an underage corpse, Destiny? Like, and like, if I'm thinking, I was like, yeah, if it's a fucking body, I don't care. But now that was 2020 and earlier Destiny, right? But 2021 Destiny, be like, okay, hold on. I'm gonna reject the framing. If somebody is fucking raping an adolescent corpse, this person has a whole bunch of other problems that should probably be addressed with. Like, I think this is a really loaded example. We don't need to go this far to prove the case that I don't care about corpses, right? I'm trying to push back more on the extremist language because I noticed that a lot of people will couch their arguments in giving me an extreme example that I have to bite onto when I don't really need to. I can just say, like, well, hold on. I think that your language is very loaded. I kind of agree with what you're saying, but like, let's go back and kind of like disassemble. Is that a word? Disassemble? I think it is, right? Disassemble some of this language or unpackage some of this language to make this a little bit less extreme so that it doesn't feel like you're begging the question, right? Because it feels like people are engaging in this. It feels like people are almost begging the question. So when I say begging the question, what I mean is like people are literally including the conclusion with their question. So like, Destiny, do you think it's good to do evil things? It's like, well, when you phrase it like that, no, I guess not, because like, it's obviously it's clear from your question that this is the only possible answer. Like, but yeah, sorry. Unpackage, dismantle. Yeah, sorry. When he said that he doesn't accept sponsors because of his aesthetic/brand, it made me Omega Lol real intentionally.
When I said aesthetic, I suppose you wouldn't buy me saying, as a lefty, I don't like the idea of doing legwork for corporations to advertise products that I don't give a fuck about. But you would say that's walking back, because what I actually believe is that it's purely an aesthetic flourish, and me fleshing it out now that I realize you've been made upset by my language is an attempt.
The thing is what I would say is I wouldn't believe you, Because
That's
the
what,
fact,
right. That's
yes,
what I just.
because
yeah,
the
exactly.
problem is you're
So I
because
don't care.
you
I don't
because
care.
yeah.
So we
Okay,
have-
that's great that
so-
you don't care. But when you had the opportunity to say it initially, like, it's my aesthetic, and I think that's probably closer to the reality. I think that it's two things. One, it's your aesthetic, and two, it's because you don't want to have to deal with fucking sponsor bullshit telling you what you cannot say. That's probably what it is. Yeah, that was really frustrating too. And then he tried to like walk it. That was really irritating me. Yeah. One thing that caught me, I'm not sure if you pushed back on, was when Vaush said that false details like Brandon Taylor's sleeping thing didn't matter. Oh, I didn't even get a chance to fully explain that. Did he really say that? Yes, he really said. Or you can go back and link it in the YouTube video, actually. Sorry, I don't want to misquote him. One of the number one things, easiest misreported fact in the world. Yeah. Why do so many people say she was killed in her sleep in bed?
Does it matter?
Yes, it totally matters.
To the facts of the wrongness of her murder, does it matter whether
even
she
to the
was
facts
in
of the wrongness of her
hallway?
murder? Yeah.
How?
Now, okay, because there's a huge difference in the cops. So I'll describe what I think was reality.
Stray bullets fly into the building. I mean, depending on the position of the bedroom, a hallway could be the same distance.
Hold on. Okay. So this is the facts of the case that I believe to be true based on everything I've read, right?
Wait, can I address one quick thing from chat?
Yeah, go for it.
There are a lot of people in chat painting right now, like, why does the truth matter? Whether or not two different interpretations or two different versions of a story meaningfully affect political discourse around that story is a valid question. One of the issues that I have with your content, Destiny, is sometimes it feels like you sacrifice political efficacy for the image of correctness, even if that line between technical correctness and rhetorically or politically efficacious but somewhat misleading is ultimately meaningless.
That's because my goal isn't to get an audience of 20,000 brain dead lefties that all just want to hear me circle jerk the popular lefty take of the news. I want to be able to reach. I want to be able to reach. Yeah, and that's not happening on YouTube. Okay, my goal isn't to just get a whole bunch of people that already agree with me and then just give them our version of the facts. I want to be able to have it so that if somebody is in the middle or even on the right listening to me debate, at the very least, I want them to walk away ass mad that everything I said was correct, and at the very least, they're going to have to wrestle with that in their head. I think that is very, very, very important to report factual stuff correctly. Because I think right now, the biggest issue that we're having probably across the world, but at the very least in the United States, is we are widening this chasm of what both sides see as reality. And that widening of the chasm, even if it's for a good cause, I don't think is good. I think at the end of the day, I think that lying a little bit to sell a good message is actually hurting these good messages so much. And it makes them so difficult for anybody to buy into them.
Adhere to truthfulness entirely. Get rid of everything misleading and dishonest on your side of the political aisle. But it costs you the war.
I don't think so. I think it would. I think it would help. I think that what costs us the war right now is and I'm gonna be totally honest. This is like anecdotal as fuck for me. So maybe I'm wrong here, but like here's one of the issues that I run into, and I notice this because I beta test some of these arguments with my mom when I'm in Florida. Okay, when I argue with my mom, I have to immediately own a whole bunch of poorly represented or misrepresented facts immediately. And then by the end of that, I have to tell my mom, like, okay, hold on, listen. Okay, yeah, this was wrong, and yeah, that was a lie, and okay, that was true. But the rest of this is true, I swear to God, Mom, okay? When you accept the fact that people can lie to further a cause, I think you do so much more damage than good. You're doing so much damage. If somebody has a timestamp in the YouTube video, he's basically saying, like, who cares if Breonna Taylor was in bed or not? What the cops did was still bad. And it's like, well, fuck. Since you and Vaush are on okay terms now, why don't you push him on moderating his chat better when you talk? Nobody is going to moderate their chat. Nobody will ever take the same level of like engagement with their community that I do because nobody wants to lose that many fans, okay? I'm probably the only person on the internet that will excise half their fucking fan base if they're doing shit that I think is fucked up. I wouldn't expect anyone else to do it, and nobody else will do it. Basically, and especially because as the lefty shit grows more and more popular online, like fan bases are all going to fucking hate me. So it's just a thing I've come to accept. It's whatever. Vaush's chat reaction to you saying you like ContraPoints. Contra is the only trans woman Destiny doesn't hate yet. Contra would probably hate Destiny if she heard half what he said about trans women. Hey, we found the one trans person Destiny likes. What? I'm sorry if a lot of trans people online are like reactionary dipshit socialists. Like, I have a couple of real life trans friends that aren't fucking insane, but like most lefties online are insane. A lot of LGBT people online just happen to be lefties. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. I have no problem with trans people. I have plenty of trans people in my community. I have a few, only like 2, but I mean, how many trans people are out there? Okay, I have a couple like close real life trans friends, but like, I have no problem with trans people. I don't think anybody that watches my content for any appreciable amount of time would consider me to be transphobic ever. Like, you have to be insane to think that. I try not to It's probably bad in a conversation to ever like point out somebody's chat, and I tried not to that much, but man, dude, his chat was horrible. Holy shit. Like, I pointed out like a couple comments, but dude, there were so many fucking insane messages in that chat last night. He more accurately said the fact is inconsequential to the overall Breonna Taylor story. I still would massively disagree with that, though, but I don't think we got to talk about it much.
I don't want my community ever to attack somebody, especially Jenny. You know, if it's Destiny, go at him. You know what I mean? Like, that's fine. As long as you don't attack Nathan. But don't attack Jenny, please. And please don't...
This fucking... I'm just gonna stop. You know he's memeing, right? Do you think there is a space for more center-left content creators who don't really get populist takes and can make a lot of money doing Fuck no. That space is dead as fuck right now. The only reason I hold it right now is because I was popular in the past, and then I'm, like, somewhat entertaining, but... I think Vaush is okay with misinformation as propaganda as long as it makes the viewer reach his position. Yeah, but that's harmful, I think. I don't think that's good. I thought about... I'm already working on one manifesto, so I don't want to do another. I thought about making... I'll probably do a write-up at some point for the differences in these things. People seem to have a really hard time understanding this. So the apparent contradiction is Destiny. You say that people should live their principles, and you say that people should be consistent with their beliefs. You advocate for higher taxes. However, you're moving to a state with lower taxes because you don't want to pay higher taxes. Or you advocate for like greater environmental regulation and for people to pollute yet less. However, you fly in airplanes or you still drive a car or you don't do everything to minimize your impact on the environment. Why is it, Destiny, then, that you can compel lefties to act in a certain way in accordance with their beliefs when you don't do the same with yours? So this is the take that I'm given a lot, okay? I kind of got into this yesterday with Vaush, but we didn't really get to dive into it at all. I'm trying to think if I don't know if I can draw this on paint or not. I really want to write this up so that I can organize my thoughts very clearly on this. But if we come off the dome, okay, the difference between some of these positions. Oh, actually, the clearest way that I can illustrate this is to take two different people. Okay, if we have two vegans, and one vegan is ethically vegan because they believe that the consumption of animals is immoral, full stop. And another person is vegan for environmental reasons because they believe that being vegan is good for the environment, right? These two people, the morality of their actions are falling on like different parts of the chain of action here. So for instance, when a vegan doesn't eat an animal, an ethical vegan doesn't eat an animal because he believes that the consumption of that animal, full stop, is unethical, period. For him to ever consume an animal would be unethical, full stop. For a person that is vegan because they think that the environmental effects are bad, if they occasionally consume an animal, it's not really that big of a deal. It's not really much of a contradiction because whether or not they consume any individual animal doesn't really change the net effect that they're going for, which is like the curbing of pollution related to animal agriculture. It's even possible, in my opinion, I think you could argue that you could be a vegan or want to be an environmental vegan that isn't a vegan at all because, or that eats meat, because even if you stop consuming all animal products in your lifetime, the impact that you will have on that end goal of reducing pollution related to veganism is going to be negligible. It's going to be basically a wash, a rounding error in terms of the amount of carbon released into the atmosphere. But I think that if an ethical vegan is out there and he eats meat occasionally, the environmental vegan that also eats meat occasionally can still criticize the ethical vegan even if they commit the same actions. If an ethical vegan and an environmental vegan both go to a restaurant and the environmental vegan is like, you know what, fuck it, I'm hungry for a cheeseburger and I want a fucking cheeseburger. And the ethical vegan is like, you know what, fucking A, dude, I want a cheeseburger too. The environmental vegan can rightfully criticize the ethical vegan because the ethical vegan's moral domain, the place that he's making the moral assertion, is the consumption of the meat, not the end effect of like, well, if you eat an animal, blah, 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 like environment, right? Whereas the environmental vegan, right, this is the difference. I don't know if this is making sense or not. So when we look at something like tax policy, we could say that, right? I don't make any moral arguments for any individuals paying taxes. Like, you should pay whatever you're legally required to, but that's it. I do think taxes should be higher overall as part of the system, because I think that, well, hold on, let me be clear. I don't necessarily think that taxes should be higher. I think that there should be social programs that would probably necessitate higher taxes, right? If theoretically we could fund the social programs with the same taxes, I wouldn't be for higher taxes, right? That there are social programs that we need that are probably going to be funded by higher taxes, but I don't think it's morally righteous or morally or immoral to pay or not pay taxes unless you're doing something illegal, right? Like if you want to minimize your tax burden, that's fine. And if you want to pay more taxes, that's okay too. But I don't have like any moral weight on this. I don't think that like the paying the taxes isn't the moral part. It's the social program at the end. Now, however, if you are a lefty or socialist or a communist and you believe that inside capitalism, it is inherently immoral or exploitative to have an employee that works that you scrape profit off of, well, when you participate in that, that's you having a direct, right there, immoral interaction with like another person. And that you shouldn't be doing if you can avoid it, right? And now if you have to, if you're like literally fucking, this is what you do to survive, then you should obviously avoid that. But if you can avoid that, if you think that you have other ethical obligations in terms of like the relationships between like fucking labor and business or whatever, if you own a business, you have the ability to not do that. So then there's a compelling reason for you there to not, is what I'm saying. Yeah, geez. Whew. You got a little confused yesterday when it sounded like you found it was immoral for someone to be inconsistent with their beliefs. Okay, it is not immoral for somebody to be like, to make a mistake. That's not a problem. That's not immoral. What the problem is, if you have a belief system and the belief system in its an idealized version has inconsistencies, that belief system doesn't work. It's necessarily absurd. It falls apart. Explain the difference between hurting the environment to a minuscule percent and eating 1% of a cow. You did not kill a cow. Okay, all right. If you want to be like that hardcore, if you want to be that hardcore, then to make the analogy actually fit, it would have to be like killing an individual animal rather than going to a restaurant. I mean, I can make it fit if you really want to get like that into the weeds. I don't think it's necessary, but fine. To amend my earlier statement, let's say that there is one chicken that is running around outside. I think that the environmental vegan could kill and consume that one chicken, but the ethical vegan could not kill and consume that one chicken because they're making a moral claim that it's bad or wrong to kill animals, whereas the environmental vegan is saying like, okay, well, I understand that like the feeding and the consumption of all the food this guy makes is bad for the environment, but like I can eat this one chicken because it's not gonna have that much of it. That if you want to make the analogy 1-to-1, 100% fit, people have a lot of trouble with analogies. I've noticed that like people are like, if everything isn't perfect, or if you're even comparing two things that aren't exactly the same, people like lose their mind. But like that would, if you want to make the comparison like as fucking apt as possible, you go. But I think the other one illustrates the point well enough. Under this vegan analogy, Vaush wouldn't be hypocritical because he's only a socialist for consequentialist reasons. Is that right? I think that Vaush has like a very confused understanding of consequentialism to where I just think he has a very naive understanding of consequentialism. Something that I thought about a long time ago. I'm sure there's a more formalized way that philosophers have talked about this. There's a statement called the ends justify the means. The reason why some of these edgy statements of the ends justify the means seem to be so difficult to think about or seem to work is because what we don't consider is that there are hidden ends that will be carried over that we're not always considering. So here's an example, okay? Let's say that there is one person in a hospital and they have a cold, and there are two people in the hospital that are dying and need kidneys or else they'll die. Should we kill the one person to save the two? Well, if we're a consequentialist, yes, because the ends justify the means. Easy, boom. Like kill one person, save two people. It's literally fucking grade school math, okay? Consequentialism solved, right? The problem is that when we say the ends justify the means, right? There's another end there. The end there isn't saving two people. That's not the only end. There's another end that we've carried over there. And another one of those ends is we have made a society where it's okay to kill one person to save two people. That society would collapse. Nobody would go to hospitals anymore ever. People wouldn't sleep next to other people because they'd be worried about being killed to give organs to people. There would probably be entire organizations dedicated to hunting down people for body parts and shit. If we made this ethical, right? If this is ethically permissible, and it would all be legal too, right? This is the problem with when some people will go like this very weird consequentialist route where you're like, oh, the ends justify the means. It's like, okay, well, hold on. We really have to think. What do you mean when you say the ends, right? Because there are other things in the ends here you're not considering. It honestly shocks me that someone who, after both of our conversations, resorted to cringy little ad homs about my intelligence, some human nature is perceived. When people run to Twitter afterwards and start tweeting like, My problem with Big Joel was we had a whole conversation where, again, he is just fucking clueless, which is fine, whatever. I'm used to it by now, right? Is when he goes onto Twitter afterward, he's like, I just can't understand somebody that thinks it's okay to kill somebody over their fucking Walkman. Like, dude, fuck you. Like, I don't care. Fuck this guy. He talked about how Vaush kept deflecting and appealing to emotion towards the end. Like, is there no one you won't sell out? In reference to Deepak, it was super shitty but effective. It was like, then yeah, I blacked. Oh, I wasn't even thinking that much there. I think, yeah, he started to obviously like run down those rhetorical appeals a lot quicker towards the end, but whatever. And then you highly overestimate how important people think having consistent moral system is a rule. A society where people are morally inconsistent or argue may be far better. For example, if all religious people were consistent, the world would be far worse. You are assuming that people having consistent ethical frameworks is a good end. It isn't. Having consistency is good because it makes you predictable. It is good. You want somebody to be consistent because we want to have some level of predictability in terms of how we approach everything, right? Predictability, causality is like a chief component of our existence. It's like some underlying fundamental like epistemic appeal of our world. We want things to be consistent and we want things to be predictable. When you have a Nazi, the goal isn't to say, oh, well, I'd rather there be an inconsistent Nazi than a consistent Nazi. The goal would be, well, I'd rather there not be a Nazi. We should probably, rather than like striving to make everybody inconsistent so that some immoral people can be inconsistent and then luck their way into being moral, we should probably just push people towards moral decisions. He's scared as always. People are going to suggest this. No, I'm not going to suggest so I can hang up. Speak in a way I wouldn't in a million years. Pretend that he's some rational wise king for doing it. Oh, yeah. I can't believe Vaush was seriously making this argument. It's okay to do X action because someone else would do X anyways. This is why I wanted to test it and I wanted to go full hardcore with the rape cage thing. Because that would truly tell us... Let's say there's a woman locked in a cage and the only way for her to be freed, or you know, one person rapes her per day at some restaurant or whatever. Like, do you think it's okay if you do it? Because if you don't, someone else will? I don't think anybody would rightfully say like, yeah, fuck it. If someone else is going to do it, I might as well fucking do it. I think I eventually tailored that back to like stealing somebody's wallet out of their car. But like, I can't believe that anybody would actually think that's okay. Well, if somebody else is going to do this bad action anyway, I might as well do this bad action. Fuck it. If we consider that exact action to be bad and not like some very far downstream effect of it. But remember to hit that like and subscribe and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.
Super erogatory.
Super erotic.